The sky above the East China Sea was a bruised purple, heavy with the threat of rain. If you want to keep exploring the untold history of the Second World War with us, take a second to subscribe right now. The water below was dangerously calm, hiding the vibration of the most massive engines ever built by human hands. It was the morning of April 7th, 1945. The end of the Empire was not just near, it was already here. Operation Tengo was not a strategy. It was a funeral procession. The Japanese High Command had played their final card, sending the pride of their navy on a one-way trip to Okinawa. They called it a sortie. The men on board knew it by its true name, a suicide run. There was no air cover, no escort of carriers, just the Yamato, the largest battleship in history, sailing naked under a sky that belonged entirely to the enemy. Ensign Sato tightened his grip on the railing of the anti-aircraft mount. The steel was cold and slick with sea spray. He tried to focus on the horizon, but his mind kept drifting to the letter folded inside his breast pocket. It was unsealed. He hadn't had the courage to lick the envelope. The smell of fuel oil was everywhere, thick and cloying, mixing with the salt air to create a scent that tasted like old copper. The ship hummed beneath his boots, a deep, rhythmic thrumming that usually made him feel invincible. Today, it felt like the heartbeat of a beast walking toward a slaughterhouse. Do you hear that? Hear what, sir? Thunder, but the wrong kind. The clouds to the east broke open. It wasn't weather. It was metal. First one dark speck, then 10, then hundreds. They swarmed out of the clouds like angry wasps disturbed from a nest. American carrier planes, Helldivers, Avengers, Corsairs. They didn't come in a formation. They came in a deluge. The air raid sirens on the Yamato didn't just wail, they screamed, a mechanical shriek that tore through the nerves of 3,000 men. Sato's diary, recovered years later, held a scribble from that morning. We are not warriors today. We are targets. The sky is no longer ours. The first wave hit with the force of a natural disaster. The sound was not a bang, but a physical blow that punched the air out of your lungs. Bombs fell like hail. The Yamato's main guns, the massive 18-inch giants capable of hurling a car-sized shell 26 miles, were useless against these buzzing insects. They were built to fight other battleships, to duel with titans. Instead, they were being stung to death by 1,000 paper-thin wings. Sato watched the gunners to his left. They were firing blindly, the tracers arcing into the gray sky. A bomb struck the deck 50 yards away. The heat hit Sato's face before the sound did. It smelled of roasting paint and ozone. When the smoke cleared, the gun mount to his left was simply gone. There was no debris, just a black, gaping hole, and the silence of men who had vanished in a blink. Get the wounded below. There is no below. The hatches are sealed. The realization rippled through the crew. To keep the ship afloat, they had to seal the compartments. The men trapped in the flooding sections were already dead. They just hadn't drowned yet. The American pilots were smart. They didn't just drop bombs randomly. They focused on the port side. They wanted to tip the giant over. Another diary entry from a survivor captured the despair. I saw a torpedo wake stretch out like a white finger. I prayed for it to miss. God was not listening. Sato scrambled over twisted metal, his white uniform now gray with ash. He reached the port rail and looked down. The water was rising to meet him. The ship was listing. The grandeur of the Yamato, the symbol of national spirit, was sliding sideways into the dark slush of the Pacific. He saw a young sailor, no older than 18, gripping a stanchion, his knuckles white, eyes wide and vacant. Move, sailor. We need to counter-flood. "It doesn't matter, sir." "What did you say?" "Look at them. There are too many." The sky was black with exhaust and burning oil. The Americans were relentless. They circled back, dropping torpedo after torpedo into the exposed belly of the beast. The Yamato groaned. It was a sound of twisting steel, snapping rivets, and breaking bones. The mighty battleship wasn't fighting anymore. It was writhing in pain. Sato grabbed a rope to steady himself. The deck was now tilted at a 30-degree angle. Walking was impossible. They were climbing the floor. He looked up at the bridge, the towering pagoda structure that had once seemed to scrape the stars. It was engulfed in flames. He realized then what he had to do. He wasn't going to save the ship. He had to save the man next to him. He grabbed the frozen sailor by the collar and dragged him toward the high side of the deck. "Jump! I can't swim!" "Then you'll fly! Jump!" He shoved the boy over the rail just as the ship shuddered violently. The list increased. The world turned 90 degrees. The ocean was no longer down. It was a wall in front of them. Sato climbed the side of the hull, his boots slipping on the wet, mossy anti-fouling paint. He was standing on the side of the ship, looking down into the funnel. The sound changed. The deep thrum of the engines stopped, replaced by the screeching of loose equipment sliding across the decks. Shells, crates, bodies, everything sliding into the sea. And then, the magazines ignited. It wasn't an explosion. It was a supernova. A column of fire shot 6,000 feet into the air, piercing the cloud layer and touching the edge of space. The shockwave flattened the waves for miles. Sato was thrown into the air, a ragdoll in a hurricane of fire and steam. He hit the water hard. Darkness. Cold. Silence. He kicked toward the light. His lungs burned. When he broke the surface, gasping for air that tasted of oil, he saw it. Or rather, he saw the absence of it. The Yamato was gone. A massive mushroom cloud, identical to the one that would later haunt humanity, rose from the spot where the pride of the Navy had been. Debris rained down like confetti. He whispered, "Gone. All of it." And the ocean simply swallowed the echo. By sunset, only a few hundred men remained of the 3,000 who had sailed that morning. They floated in circles, slick with oil, singing songs to keep awake, waiting for rescue or death. Sato held onto a piece of wooden grating. He checked his pocket. The letter was gone. Dissolved by the sea. According to official U.S. Navy reports, the Yamato took at least 11 torpedoes and 6 bombs. It took 2 hours to destroy what took 4 years to build. Historians still debate the utility of the mission. Some call it a noble sacrifice. Others call it a wasteful slaughter of a nation's youth. If you want more forgotten stories of real people who lived through the chaos of World War II, please subscribe. This channel exists to bring their voices back from the deep. War creates legends. It builds monuments of steel and stories of glory. But in the end, the ocean claims them all. The Yamato sleeps in the dark, a steel tomb for thousands. And the silence above the waves is the loudest sound on earth.